All right, how's it going, everyone? So, I'm going to take a few minutes here to teach you guys how to make a really basic impressionistic rose like what you see here on the original painting that we're going to be doing this week. I was going to show you a couple of ways to do this, a couple of different types of roses, but I decided that I'm going to keep it simple. I don't want to give you too many choices. I know sometimes that can cause more problems than it solves. So, in the future, we'll talk about doing other types of roses, but for this tutorial, I'm going to stick to just the what I use to create these flowers in here. And I want to make sure everyone understands that these are impressionistic. Okay, there's not a whole lot of detail to them. They're a fun flower to make in this style. There are different ways, of course, to make roses. I always need to explain that my way isn't the only way. And with a little bit of practice, anyone can copy this method. Okay, you're gonna need a little bit of practice though. First couple of times, first few times even, it just depends. Might be a little tricky. But I've got some paint right here, some basic paint. What I've done is I've separated, so this is going to be one set of colors that I'll be using for one rose. I've got three. I've got white, yellow, orange. Over here I've got this white, pink, and red. Okay, so that's two sets of colors for two different roses, or two different rose types. Not rose types, different rose color. Okay, so for example, you notice here I've got some yellow ones, and I've got some pink ones, and I've got some more reddish ones. The way I did them was by using this method right here, where I've got, again, this is going to be for one flower or one color flower, and this is a different color flower. You could do this setup with a lavender rose, with a white rose. We'll talk about that in a little while. But the main tool that I'm going to be using is an angular brush. The methods that I'm going to show you can be done with a flat brush, a basic flat brush, something like this guy over here. Give me a moment. Something like this. If you don't have an angular brush, you can use something like this, and you'll probably be okay. But it typically ends up being a little bit easier if you do it with an angular brush. And I'm going to be using for this over here. I used a 1/2 inch angular. This guy right in here. Okay, but for the purposes of the demonstration, actually I think I mixed and matched a little bit. It just depends. Some of them I made it with a smaller one, like this 3/8 inch angular. Okay, and then I've got a big 3/4 inch angular that I would use if I wanted to make some big ones. So it really depends on you. Practice a little bit. If you've got a few different angular brushes, practice with what you have. So here's what I'm going to do. Okay, my yellow flowers. I'm going to take some yellow. Okay, I'm going to bring it over here. So my entire brush got a little bit of yellow. Then I'm going to take the heel of the brush, the shorter end, I dip it into my orange, and I do this. Blend a little bit. Okay, then I'm going to take the tip is going to be in white. Blend a little bit. Okay, so there's three colors on my brush. I'm going to start with this right here. I'm going to start with, and I'm trying to keep from blocking the view of the camera, so it might be a little tricky for me, but we're going to go like this. Okay, there's 1, 2, and the exact number I typically do, I'll do maybe 2 or 3 of these. Now if you see there's not a lot of white, I can grab a little bit more white if I'd like. Okay, and then come over and just go right over the top parts. I want there to be a slight transition. Light is on top and the orange is on the bottom. Okay, once I've done that, I'll reload my brush. Okay, it's a little hard for me to do this holding the paper that I'm using for the palette. That's my palette here, but you get the idea. Blend a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the center part of my flower. Okay, roll it up, come down. Okay, now keeping the brush still with the white part up, there's the center of my rose. Okay, in a little bit I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to give it a close-up. I'm going to come in tighter on what I'm doing. Okay, so now I grab some paint again. Maybe grab a little bit more white. Dip in a little orange. Okay, now I'm going to come over to the other side, and I'm going to maybe start over here behind this flower, behind this petal. Come in. Okay, over here, same thing. Come in a little bit. Okay. Be conscious of which direction you're pointing the white end, the top part of the flower, which way you point it. Now, when I'm doing these bottom leaves down here, the bottom petals, I'm going to point that white downwards a little bit. So we'll start like this somewhere. Okay, something like that. Maybe, okay, in here on the inside, this space on each side, again, white side up, come in here. Okay, over to the other side, same thing, maybe the petal's a little higher up. Okay, now I'll take a little step back, I'll look at my flower and now say, well, maybe I need one right here too. So let me load up some more. As you need it, make some more of this mixture. So I'll come over here. Okay, there we go. I like that. Okay, let me bring that closer to the camera now. Okay. So what I would do in this, what I did in this painting, I had already blocked out where all my flowers were going to be using my pencil. I had just gone through, and again, we'll talk about this during the painting, but I had gone through, before I started any of the flowers, I circled where all my flowers were going to be. So I would do all of the ones that are going to be in this color first. I do all those first. I laid down, this is the first layer of paint that I would be doing for this flower. I'd be adding a few more little accents to this, a few more little details to it before we're done with it. But first, I would do all my yellow flowers on my painting. And then, once I've done that, then I switch over to a different color flower. Now, if you're doing all one color flower, well, then all your flowers would be like this. But you do them all at once. Okay, I'm cleaning up my angular brush here, cleaning this up. Now we're going to do the same thing with this color here. Pink is going to be my base, so I dip into my pink. Okay, I'm going to grab some red. This red's pretty runny, more flowy paint. I'm going to do this. Now, depending on how much red or how much white you want in your flower, you can play with this a little bit. You know, just kind of blending a little. Again, I want the lighter part of the petal on top. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start again. Maybe I had a red one here next to this one, or it's on this side, or it's down here. So same exact process. So we start with, you know, I want to keep from blocking. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come in a little tighter on this time, if I can. I can't zoom in with this camera that I'm using right now. So hopefully that works right there. Maybe I'll bring this closer a little bit without knocking stuff over. Okay, so my brush is loaded up with the paint. I'm going to go like this. We have a flower up here. We're going to go. Okay. And they can go one to the next, or they can be slightly detached. They don't have to be connected. In other words, you don't have to go all in one movement. You could do one, then another one, and they slightly overlap. Okay. Let's reload the paint. Maybe I want a little bit more white in this case. Got to be careful because there's some yellow in that mixture. So right here in the center, down here somewhere, we're going to go like this. Okay, I just did one of those. And I can bring it down a little bit. And I come over to the other side and we work our way back up. Okay, we're making that little cylinder, right? So first whoops. First we go up, then I come back over to the other side, and we go down and back over. Okay, we attach that one side to the other. So let's load up our paint again. Okay, now here I can come over to this side, go like that again, come over to this side. Okay, this one has a bigger space in between there. There's a little bit of a randomness at play here. I'm not trying to be super precise with every single brush stroke. I let my hand movement and the brush and the paint kind of move on their own a little bit. In other words, I'm not sitting here trying to be super specific as to where I want all this to go. But once I started, I started to get little ideas, right? Like, for example, here, I come in here. Okay. Now, as I'm going across now, in this case, I'm turning the brush a little bit as I go. So the white side stays on the top of the petal. So that petal, if you imagine that flower has a petal that does this, goes like that, right? But I want that paint, the white paint, to stay on top of that petal. Okay, you're going to have to practice a little. It'll start to make sense once you practice a bit. Loading up my brush again, I come over to the other side now. Maybe this one's not quite as, doesn't turn as much. You're not getting as much of a top view as you are on that one. So this one's not giving you as much of a top view as you got over there. So that flower there for the base part could be done. I could say, okay, that's good. That's all I want for that one. But I could add a little more, make it a little bit wider, maybe make it so that's a little bit, here, let me load up on the pink again. Again, the white, the lighter part of the flower is on top. Now, if you don't want to do a 3-layered flower or 3 transition color flower, you can just use 2. I could easily do this with white and red, or white and pink, or even red and pink. Doesn't have to be three colors. So let's see. We're going to go red in here. Start on the outside of this flower, comes over. Now this flower, this petal, is a little more open. It's a little like that. So I can see the white on the bottom part. Okay, maybe I'll come over here. Now I covered that one up. Okay, I covered it up a little bit. You could, if you really wanted to, do the big petals with the larger angular brush, and then you'd switch to a smaller one to maybe catch some that are on the inside. Like here, I could add a little tiny one, a little tiny, I'm not switching brushes. I don't want to overcomplicate things. So just taking a little bit of my white again. I want to make sure I don't have a lot of paint on my brush for this step. I just come in here, nice and tight. Okay, just a little bit of a petal showing there. And I can do this a bunch of times, making the flower a little more dense. Okay, again, this is the first layer. There isn't much to these. So I go through and do all of my pink or pinkish red flowers in this case. If you have purple ones, you would do the same thing. You would pick 3 colors that are kind of, 3 colors that are going to be in your flower. Okay. Let me clean up my brush a little. Let's say you're going to do some white ones or some really light yellow ones, but they're mostly white, but see a little bit of yellow. I'm going to demonstrate this with white and a gray. So I'll take some of this paint. I'm going to make my three paint layer. Oh, you know what? I do not have black in the studio. I took all my black paint home. That's okay. So let's do, just imagine if you were doing these gray ones. I did the exact same way. These white and gray ones. I did a white, then a really, really light gray in the middle, and then a little bit of a darker gray at the end. So I still have my 3-color flower combination, okay? 3-combination flower. 3-color flower combination. There we go. That sounds a lot better. Let's make some purple ones. Let me grab a little bit of purple. Now, again, this isn't a really complicated process, but you're not always going to get it on the first try. You want to practice. Don't get frustrated. Even after, I hadn't done some of these flowers in quite some time. When I went back to try to do them the first time, I was like, wait a minute, hold on, how was it again? I had to practice a little bit before I got the hang of it again. So if I've got to practice, and I've done them before, for those of you that are just practicing the first time, just understand that you might have to practice a little bit. Who knows? Some of you might get it right at the beginning, and that's perfect. But be a little patient with yourselves. Okay, just cleaning up my same angular brush here. Okay, clean that up a bit. So let's see. This is going to be my heel color. My heel color. I'm going to bring it over here. Okay, that's my deepest color. And then maybe for the middle, I'm going to mix a little bit of a lavender. Let's mix it over here. Or a light purple. Okay, so there's my light color. Here's my middle color. Okay, this is the color that the majority of my brush takes. Okay, now I take this and I dip the bottom end in the heel, and then the white is on the top. So same thing. Let's say we're gonna, this area in here is pretty dry, but let's say we're overlapping. So I have a flower that's gonna be in here, or it's gonna be right on top. But we'll start it right here. We'll do the same exact thing. We got 1, 2, 3. Okay. And I could bring this over a little bit. I could play with it a little bit. Maybe I want that to come down a little. Okay, but again, look at that. Okay, there's a little transition from the white to the in-between to the dark. Then, of course, and I could even leave that and let that dry. And might even work out a little bit better. Give that a little bit. Let me see. Let me take my blow dryer here. Okay. And then just reload my brush. There's my heel color. Remember, the top part of your angular brush is your toe, bottom part is the heel. So right in here. Let me see if I can do this holding it up close to the camera. So right in the center. This is the center part of my flower. Just going to come up. Right, I cover up some of what I painted. Then right here, holding the brush straight up like this. Just come down, connect to the other side. Okay? I'm going to see if I can continue doing this holding the brush. We're just going to clean this up a little, bring that over. Okay? And let me load my brush and I'll raise that up again. So more of this, I need to make a little bit more. Okay, main body, white, blue, dark purple. There we go. So now I come over to this side. Okay, over to this side, maybe this petal starts on the inside. And again, that would probably work. I could leave that as that small of a flower. And I can come in here and add little tiny ones in the inside. But little ones, there's not a lot of angle going. Oops, I said I was going to hold it up. Okay. So let me load up my brush again. Still got some fresh mixture here. Maybe a little more white at the top. Okay, just load it up. So then, again, maybe I'll have a little petal in here on the inside. Okay, then I could, this one down here maybe splays out a little bit more. It splays down toward the bottom. I just see the bottom part of the, right? Again, it's open this way. I'm looking down on the petal, so I see the white now is on this side. The position of the brush has been reversed now. So I could do the same thing over here, slightly reversed. Okay, depends on how you're going to hold the brush, or depends on your perspective to the flower. Now, again, I go through and I do all my purple ones. Cleaning up my brush. For this entire process, of painting the flowers, you don't need much more than an angle brush. I know I listed other brushes in the details of the event for the video, for the session, right? The supplies you'll be needing. But for the flowers, all you really need is a right-sized, and by right size, it depends on how big your flowers are going to be, how big your canvas you're using. But it's kind of up to you. You'll get a better idea once you do a little bit of this practice. But watch now. Now I'm going to take I can take the toe right here on this flower that's already dry, just kind of in the center. I just come in and dip some of these little lines in, little dots. Now I can also use this. I press down on the brush, and I'll come in, and then so this is already kind of dry. I come in just to the very, very insides, just do little tiny shadows in between some of the petals. Again, you're going to want to play with this a little, just to give it a little, and I'm barely using this very tip of the bristles there. Wherever there's petals that overlap. Okay, and this just gives it a little bit more. I'll make a really big one in a bit. Okay, so using maybe my 3/4 inch, so it'll be a lot easier to see all that I'm doing. But I would do what I just did. I would go through and do to the other flowers. So for this red one, I just grab a bunch of red paint, and I come in here. Okay, and if you're having a hard time doing the details with the little details that I just showed you a moment ago with the angular brush, then switch over to one of the small round brushes, something like this, right? A little pointy thing. Liner brush. For example, you would take a little bit of red, and you would just come in between, like down in this area. Okay, down in here, maybe a little bit. Again, where the flowers overlap a little bit, the petals. Just come in. And add some of these dark shadows. Okay, you can also do the same thing now to the light parts. You would take your white, in this case, okay, and then you can just come in just on the white parts of your flower. Or if this was a primarily pink flower and pink was your lightest part, then you would do this in pink. So I'm doing this to what you would imagine being the tops of the petals. If you want to highlight a part of your flower, this is how you would do it. Now, during the video, during the actual session, I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of highlighting. I'm probably likely going to do, each flower is going to have 2 steps. First is the layer, like what we did here. And then I'll do a second layer to accent and highlight a little bit, but not a lot. Don't need a lot. These are impressionistic flowers, and that's all we really need. So I'm going to take a little bit of purple. And what are we going to do with this? Right in here. Okay. And again, just pick a few little spots to okay. Now, once this is all dry, as I'm wearing that, and they will dry pretty quickly as I'm going from flower to flower. First, we do everything like what we did first step, create every single yellow flower or every single pink flower, every single gray or white flower, depending on where we start. We do all of them on the first layer, and then we'll come back and do touch-ups, highlights, dark lights on all the yellows, then all the pinks or all the reds, all at one time. So as we're moving around as we finish a flower, the second layer on the other flowers, or the second step on the flowers, when we're done with all of our flowers, I'm just tongue-tied right now, but when we're done with all the flowers, we come back to the first flowers, and they should all be dry to the touch. Then what we'll do is we'll take some glitter. For those of you that have glitter, you don't have to do this. We'll take some golds and some maybe pinks or reds. Let me grab some really quickly. I thought I put it over here. Here it is, hiding behind my paint over here. And I lost my shoe. Let's grab that shoe. So I've got some red. Just going to put out a little bit. This is the Galaxy Glitter paint. The Galaxy Glitter. I prefer the Glitterific. It's a better glitter. And then, of course, my favorite is the Craft Twinkles glitter. But whatever you've got will be just fine. Don't sit there fretting over your glitter. What I would, if you don't have glitter and you'd like some, I'm going to put some details in the description of this video for you to, if you'd like to go check out some links to some of the stuff that I use. But I'm just using a little rounded brush here, a little lighter brush, skinny thing. And I just come in here and add, primarily I can do this again in the darker parts of the flower. I could, if you really wanted to, you could add it everywhere. But what I've found is that tends to cover up some of the nice little details that we created, the transitions in color and stuff. It gets washed out, okay? So there's that little flower, and that I would call that flower done. And now I would do the same thing with gold. I got some gold. And for those of you that aren't familiar, this is all this stuff is glitter floating around in a type of glue. And I don't normally do this, but I'll take my brush. It's clean enough. Dip it right into my bottle there. And in this case, maybe because this is a lighter glitter, I'll do it to some of the lighter areas, the more yellow parts of this. I do have some pearl or crystal colored glitter we could add to some of the white parts. Okay, and that would look pretty cool too. Okay. I could even I've taken a little bit of red and added it to the center of that orange flower, orange yellow flower. Okay. Now I don't think I've got any purple here. Let me do a quick check. I think all my purple's at my house, but give me a second. I try to have two of everything, at least two of everything, so that I can bring it and have it here at the studio. But sometimes when I'm in a pinch, running out of or something at home, I'll take it home, or vice versa. I'll bring it here, and then I won't have it at home. Give me a second. So I don't have any purple. But I do have some of my awesome, and it's hard to tell what it is because it's all covered up with some black paint. But this is my Craft Twinkles crystal or pearl color. It's actually listed as crystal. This is some of my favorite glitter to use because it can pretty much work with anything. You can pretty much put it on anything you'd like, and this will work pretty well. So we could use this one. If you didn't have purple, you could use this on your purple. And again, a little goes a long way. I'm just kind of accenting some of the areas that I want to highlight. Okay. But look how cool that looks. Okay. Look at that. Pretty cool. Hopefully we're catching. It's hard for me to tell if it's the light's catching it just right on the video, but I think you can. Okay, so. But that's kind of what you would do with that. And if we wanted to do leaves, I can go back to the angular brush. Again, really versatile brush. So you don't have to use an angular brush for leaves. You can use a round or a filbert. You can also use a flat. Just gonna take a little bit of green. Put some out here. Being stubborn here. Oops, let me. Oh, I already have green over on this other. Give me a second here. Now, I'm going to take some green. Okay, just going to transition it over to the side here. Take a little bit of yellow also. Transition it. So using my angular brush, I can make a kind of a mixture between with yellow and green. We could also do it with brown and green and even a little bit of yellow, brown, green, and yellow. So what I can do is this. I can just come over and let's see. Okay. There's one. Maybe over here we got a bigger one. Okay. Again, very versatile brush on these with these angular brushes. Very, very versatile. Maybe right here. Okay. If I want to do almost like a little stem, really light. Okay. I want to add a stem to a. Again, this is an impressionistic style painting. There we go. It's a little better. Right? So let me go ahead and demonstrate using my beautiful Vienna angle shader angular brush, right? Okay. So we'll make it with that. I really like that purple one, but I'm going to make it using the combination here in the middle. So take some pink. This is primarily what's going to be on my main part of the brush, or the main color. I'm going to grab some red, put it in the heel. Just going to blend it a little bit. Depends on you how much red you want to add to it. Same thing with the white. How much white do you want to add to it? There we go. So I'm going to try to do this without messing up my other roses, but I will overlap this green part here. So kind of what we did before, right? We're going to come up. Okay. Oh, I know. I got to show you guys how to make a little bud too. We'll practice a little bud here in a moment. Okay. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit more. Turn it inwards. There we go. So as you begin to lay down your paint, you'll gauge how much white or how much pink or how much red you want in there. So if you want a little more white, you add more white to your mixture. Bring it over, right here in the middle. Okay, it's a little tricky trying to keep from blocking the camera. So there's my center. Okay, now right here. Okay, I can even stop right there, then start back over on the other side. Okay, there's my little cylinder in the center. Now this doesn't have to be all one, that looks like it's all one piece. I could just kind of come in here and do a couple of little petals there. That's another petal. Okay. Now I'll come over here. And I could even go back to the inside here. I got a little petal here in between. Nice little petal that's sitting right there. Maybe here. So I don't have to go to the outside first, like I did on the other ones. Again, there's different ways to do this. Practice a little bit. Now I can come over here. Get back over here. Watch how I'm holding the brush. Okay. So if I want down, let's say I want one over here that opens up. It's a little more open. Okay, so we'll go, starts on the outside. As I go downwards, now I'm turning the brush a little bit so that I can see more of, so it's kind of open like this, right? It's peeled out a little bit more. So take a look at it and you decide, do I need more petals? We could leave that like that. I could add another one, maybe another one right here. Another one. Maybe we got one that's peeking out over here. Okay. Again, practice a little bit. There's really no right or wrong. I would leave this alone for now. Move on to my next flowers. Let all this dry, and then I'd come back. Still using my brush, I'd come in here to A little bit of red in there. Again, I could use my angle brush here, my little angular, to do things like this. All these little areas in between. All I'm doing is defining the little sections, the little areas between the flowers. And not everyone requires one. You kind of be the judge. As you're playing around with this, the more of these you make, the better you're going to get at it. Now, if you get frustrated and you get kind of stuck and you're like, oh, walk away for a little while and come back. Come back to it later. Okay, now watch on this bigger flower. Again, I would wait to do this once it's all dry. Actually, let me go ahead and use my handy dandy blow dryer. That's what it's here for, right? Okay, so that's dry. Put that back in its spot. So now I'm switching to a smaller angular, the one that I used originally for these flowers. Now I can take a little bit of paint. I don't need to do a lot of this. This is just white paint now. And maybe I concentrate more of it on the toe. I can come in here and just do some little touch-ups. If I want to do some little highlights here and there. Okay. There isn't a lot of paint on the brush. It's almost a dry brush method where I've run out a lot of the paint. Now I'm using what's left and spreading it. Okay. Now, you could do this a few times. You'll let this dry, come back and do it again. You could take a smaller brush and do this. But again, for this kind of painting, that's all you really need. If you're all done, everything's dry, you would take your glitter. Remember, when you're using this glitter, you have to make sure that your brush is nice and free of any wet paint. You also want to make sure that your painting is dry. So you can just take a little bit of this and add it to some of the darker areas. If I was using the pearl color, I would add it to the lighter parts. And this helps create a little bit of a shading in your flower. Okay. Stem. Just mixing some green and some yellow. And I'll come in here and okay. All right. There's that. Imagine that. Imagine a whole bunch of those different colors or the same color, whatever, on your canvas, and you're going to get something similar to this. Okay, and of course we got some green glitter on the leaves there. Got some red glitter on those flowers. I didn't use any pearl on this one, but before we paint, not every flower requires glitter. Which ones do you want to stand out? If I wanted to, I could come in with some of that gold and apply it to my yellow ones, and the pearl to the white ones. I have pink glitter. I could apply the pink glitter to those flowers. So play around, practice, practice, practice. Don't be afraid. Not every rose is going to have to be perfect. Play with it a little bit. See what see what you can come up with. See what you can do. You've got scratch paper. You can do this on cardboard. You can do this on your multimedia paper. It just really depends. At the very end, what you can do is take something like, if it was on this flower, I would take like my little bright brush here and add some details, some small detail. Actually, let's see here. Like this guy here. I'll just take a little bit of white. And I would just kind of come in here and, again, just some little lines, little areas that you want to pop a little bit more. This is all, I would do this before the glitter, of course. Glitter typically is last. What do I want to see stand out a little bit? Okay, just throw some little lines in there. We are talking impressionistic roses here. There's a close-up. So practice before Monday, practice as much as you need, and we're gonna have a good time. Okay, so if any of you are interested in the supplies that I use, that brush, the angle brushes, I'll put those in the description of this video, just so you have an idea what I'm using. Okay, but all right, everyone, thank you so much for joining me today, or whenever you watch this video. It'll be today when you watch it on your end. So I'll see you all on Monday. Any questions, comments, please put them down below. Okay. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.